Good evening. I'm actually about to go on a date, and I tend to overthink things whenever I'm getting ready to go out like this. So, to get my mind off of that, I decided to make a quick little video for fun. I have 3 books in front of me that I grabbed off my shelf. These are nonfiction books that I have highlighted the most out of the ones that I own. I've read them all at different points in my life when I was going through different things and in varied headspaces. So I don't know if I were to read the books now, I don't know that I would highlight the same exact things, but during the times that I read them, it was exactly when I needed them. The first one is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. It actually has the full curse word in there, but I don't know if I'm gonna offend anyone, so I figured I'd stick with F. I do curse, but minimally, so I'll just leave it at that. The rest of the title is A Counterintuitive Approach to Living a Good Life. This one is written by Mark Manson. I think this book is a little controversial as far as how it's been received. I have friends who tried to read it, couldn't get through it. And I have friends who have loved it. My friends who didn't like it seemed to dislike the approach that the author takes and the voice that he uses. Mark Manson has a type of no-nonsense vibe that I personally really like. It's an approach that kind of forces you to really confront areas in your life that you want to fix and to get up and fix them in a kind of in-your-face way. At least in this book, that's the vibe that I get. He did write this book many years ago, so I listened to his podcast as well, and he seems to have evolved since writing this book, and he's actually mentioned that. So his voice has changed slightly since then. I feel like he's matured a little bit. Personally, it sucked me in. I really enjoyed his storytelling as well. He discusses different people's stories in life, people that he's known, but also people in history. And I just like the way that he tells their stories. It's in a very entertaining fashion. And he has a lot of nuggets in there that I really needed to hear at the time. But again, like I said, my friends that did not respond well to this book or did not finish it, they tend to prefer very optimistic books, very fluffy, I guess you could say, more inspiring in a sunshiny, you're gonna be okay, you've got this, you're the best ever, like that type of approach. I respond better to the no-nonsense attitude. So if you're like me, maybe give this one a try. And if you do like this book, he does have a podcast, as I mentioned. I believe he has 2. One is Mark Manson. I think he just goes by his name. I'll have to verify that. And the other one is the name of his book. I like both. The second one I'll mention is very popular. You've heard of it, I'm sure. It is also a #1 New York Times bestseller, and it's called Atomic Habits, An Easy and Proven Way to Build Good Habits and Break Bad Ones by James Clear. The reason this book has stuck with me and why I wanted to include it here, not only does it have a bunch of highlights from me, but also it was actually the book that got me into nonfiction works to begin with. It was the first one I picked up and actually read from start to finish and sort of set me on this search for more. And I have been reading all kinds of books like this ever since. This book was exactly what I needed when I found it. I was at a friend's house. I had drove 13 hours to visit her and her husband in the Midwest, and they were watching a show one night, and this book was sitting on their coffee table, and I picked it up and I read it, and I was so invested that her husband, it's actually his book, he told me to take it with me and keep it, and that he had another copy, so that's how I wound up with this one. And since then, I have read it multiple times. For me, I think I liked it because it has a lot of one-liners that are easy to digest. I tend to gravitate toward books that have practical advice or philosophical advice. And in this case, it's practical. I also think that, at least for me, it's good to read slightly slowly and really think about what I'm reading and how it translates into my life in an actionable way. And that has been instrumental into actually putting change into action instead of just reading about it, putting it away, and never making any actual change. The last one that I've highlighted the most, and this one actually has really the most highlights out of any of my books. In fact, it's hard to find anything in this that is not highlighted, actually. This one is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I just finished reading it. I've been in the middle of it for quite a long time. This is the one that I have read the slowest, intentionally. I will read and reread and reread the same paragraphs over and over and over. And when I do that, I feel like I'm receiving it from a new angle each time almost, or at least receiving more clarity. This is definitely one of the ones that I feel takes a lot more thought. While most books are written with the intent to be read and practiced by others, this was just such a personal journey for this author. I don't believe he ever intended on anyone else reading it. So there's just something very personal about the words inside of this. I also find it fascinating how similar his thought processes and his struggles in that time period were to so many of ours now. Despite the time difference, the culture difference, the huge shifts that have happened since then, he was still dealing with so many of the same struggles that we are now. But his approach was incredible. It didn't matter that he was an emperor. It didn't matter that he had all the wealth, all the options in the world. He still chose to live a life of strong morals and strong values and principles, and to be the best person that he could be. To me, it's very inspirational to know that somebody in such a position worked as hard as he did in order to be the most honest, most transparent, most true version of himself. There's a lot of strength in this book, a lot of wisdom, a lot of relatability, even though the writing style can take some getting used to if you're not accustomed to this sort of reading. I still highly recommend it. I did recommend it to a friend who I thought might like it, and she just couldn't get into the writing, so she put it down pretty quickly. It took too much effort for her to try to get used to that. So it just depends on the type of person you are, what you've read previously, and I suppose your reading style. But I highly recommend this book. It is a very beautiful and very inspiring book, in my opinion. I'm sure I will reread this one many times for the years to come. Okay, those are my 3 books with the most highlights currently. I am in the middle of reading one that I'm really enjoying right now as well. And this one is called Flow. I am so nervous to pronounce this author's name because I'm sure I won't do it properly, but I'm going to make an attempt. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I'm cringing right now. You can't see my face, but I'm cringing at my pronunciation of that. Regardless, this book is very good so far. I'm enjoying it, but I'm only a few chapters in. I wouldn't say it's an easy read necessarily, at least not for me. It might be for you. It definitely has taken a little more time for me to get through the lines and feel like I'm properly digesting them. But I'm definitely enjoying his perspective on things and learning about his studies about the flow state and his research throughout the years. I believe he actually just passed away a few years ago. From what I remember, I think he was 89 years old. I hope that I'm remembering that correctly. Maybe I'll include a few of his quotes as well from the book that I find. I usually will try to find them on Goodreads and put them up on my video from there. Okay, I have to go get ready for this date and force myself not to overthink it. This is my 4th one with this person, and I'm very excited about it. It'll be a good time, but I still overthink because that's just in my nature. So I hope that you all are enjoying your weekend. Well, it's the weekend right now at the time of recording this. I don't know what day it will be once I actually get it posted, but regardless, enjoy your day, enjoy your week. I'm sending all the positive energy your way, and I will be back when I am back. Thank you for listening.